Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all well. It seems that this drive towards totalitarianism is accelerating, not just year on year, but almost day by day. The EU has announced that they are going to be introducing a Ministry of Truth. Does that ring any bells with those of you? Perhaps if I mention the name George Orwell, it might ring a few bells. And on top of that, it has just been released, although it was there all along, but as with most government documents, they tend to be so full of drivel that it's easy to miss the hidden agenda that is buried somewhere amongst all of their unnecessary text. But it seems that in the forthcoming energy bill, which is due to be go through Parliament in the next session, that there is going to be a law slipped through without our knowledge, or that was the intention, for all property owners who do not comply with future energy performance regulations to face fines of up to £15,000 or prison. Think about that for a moment. You may not be able to rip out your perfectly good boiler and replace it with a noisy, disgusting, ineffective, overgrown air conditioning unit that keeps your neighbours awake and costs £10,000 or £15,000. And if you can't do so when you are told to do so, then you could face a massive fine or prison. Or perhaps you could just sell your house, although I'm sure that they don't want millions of people selling their houses, do they? We all know that, the saying, you will own nothing and be happy, is just the realm of conspiracy theorists, isn't it? However, I believe that all of these things are coming from all different directions, and there's an ultimate goal for it. Telling people not to smoke many years ago, forget the health issues, it was the principle of it, was a major step. Locking everybody down and forcing them into self-inflicted house arrest, forcing people to have a vaccine that they didn't want or they wouldn't be allowed to go anywhere. Justin Trudeau facing a serious protest from truck drivers, actually managed to get their accounts frozen so they couldn't eat to break down the protest. Now we've had the ULEZ, which is designed to punish the poorest because it's all about health, and that those who can pay are free to pollute as much as they wish, including our overgrown, spoilt brats that fly their supercars in from the Middle East through the summer and drive up and down the streets of Chelsea as though they own the place. Even though those vehicles are new, they're compliant. That doesn't mean they don't pollute. They actually pollute far more than your older so-called non-compliant vehicle. But they love that word, compliant. And if this is not reversed, then it's going to be rolled out everywhere. It's no surprise that it's becoming harder and harder for people to get a passport. It's taking longer and longer. It's taking longer and longer for people to get a driving test. It is taking longer and longer for people to actually be able to save up and buy a house, if ever they can. And when the government commissioned a report into why young people can't buy a house, guess what the conclusions of that report was? They spend too much on things like Netflix. £12 a month is the reason that you losers can't buy a house, according to the government. So if you cancel Netflix and say for the next 1 or 2 centuries, then you may be able to buy something. Otherwise, I'm sorry, but you're to blame. It's not their fault. The fact that property has been pushed up to 6, 8, 10 times the average salary for the first time in history due to calculated ultra low interest rates seems to be lost. And many people out there haven't benefited, because if we look at, say, the landlords, they've been encouraged to buy, renovate, remortgage, move on. So although they've been building up equity, they've been breaking that equity down amongst more and more properties. So owning one property outright is not the same as owning 4 properties with a loan to value of 75%, even though the total equity prior to property falling may have been the same. Because if you own a property outright, if property values fall by 5% or 50%, relatively you are in the same position. You still own a property outright, and a property twice the size of it, give or take, will be twice the price. However, if you own 4 properties with a 75% loan to value and property falls by 25%, then you are broke. The bank owns your properties and you own nothing. Many landlords, many investors are in that position right now. And this bubble has created a situation where young people are unable to buy property. Many of them are giving up. That's not a good thing, that they are resigning themselves to rent forever, because that is basically an entire generation who are effectively giving up on the fundamental right in the modern world to own your home, to own a car, to go on a holiday, to not have to decide if you can keep warm or eat, or if you should eat. These are fundamental rights, and in the country that is the 3rd, well now 4th largest economy, as we've recently been overtaken by India, regardless, that is not just a shame, it is an embarrassment on a national and international scale. So lots of sinister things happening, and unless we speak up about them, it will not be long before we are completely muted and disconnected with everything that the political classes are doing, because they are making it increasingly difficult for people to voice their opinion. We can't express an opinion on the perversions taught to our children by force at schools. If we object to anything, we are instantly classified as being extremists, be it on the left or the right, or in religious terms or political terms, or whatever it may be. And as a society, we've fallen for it. We've allowed this to happen, and we don't have long to change things before we reach the point where we will be unable to change things, because it will literally be impossible. Anyway, there's food for thought on this wonderful Saturday. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, feel free to message me anytime, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye for now.